collar version of the guy that's trying to sell you a mixtape on the way down to the subway. I mean, he's a professional hustler. I mean, he's gonna get there or die trying.
He's hustling. The New York Daily News has a news story out on Chuck Blazer talking about his cooperation with the Federal Bureau of Investigation in corruption investigation. Now, this is basically Chuck selling people out to save his own ass. I mean, let's not.
But when you first saw the headline, was there a part of you that thought, like I did, that, oh my God, this whole time was he on the inside and I had it all wrong? Was there a moment before you actually got into it? Like, wow, how long was he in it? And was our opinion of him wrong the whole time?
No, I completely pegged it right away. This is a man who the only reason for him to cooperate with authorities is to cover his own ass. Okay, and sorry, I have to do this. It's a prodigious one at that. And this is the thing about the Daily News piece, which we can get into a little bit. It certainly talks about some of his spending and the lavish lifestyle he lived on the dime of soccer in this part of the world. But it also referenced about 12 times how big the man is. How many times did it say he's 400?
It really did.
He's fat. He's corpulent. I think they dropped the word corpulent. That's how far they went.
You just use prodigious.
I did, but that's a little. I think prodigious is a little more common use than corpulent.
Let's just say the dude's probably got more dimples than Mario Lopez. I mean, he's probably got a lot of. I should go too far. But.
So Jared DuBois, in his infinite wisdom, being the idea man around here, has come up with the most amazing new game we could ever possibly play on the Best Soccer Show, and it's called Blazer or Baller. And here you go. Here's your.
I had to actually like abstain from reading the whole article once I thought of this game a couple lines in. So I may be less informed when you actually talk about Chuck Blazer, but it was worth it just to play this game. So you go ahead and put the rules out there.
The rules, well, it's very simple. I'm going to give you a fact about some lavish spending, somebody who went out and put some money into the world for some ridiculous thing that they needed, wanted, and had to have. And you're going to tell me if it's a baller, meaning if it's a rapper who did this, or if it's Chuck Blazer, because I think the line, you'll be a real surprised how close that line is.
Yeah, because I read a couple of things. I was like, it could easily read like an Ebony magazine profile on a hip hop star or something like that. I mean, it was the lavish spending and like opulent lifestyle is ridiculous. I mean, it's really safe for these 1%ers.
How about this? How about we've got 8 minutes. We're 8 minutes into the show. I know there's an MLS playoff game going on right now. I see Siggy Schmidt behind you. Never mind. I see Siggy Schmidt behind you. We can talk some MLS, or we can talk Jurgen Klinsmann, and let people get some people try to call in so that they can play Baller or Blazer, or we can play it with you, Jared. That's up to you. If you want to be the guy,
let's tease it with. I'll play one round of it real quick. And then if anyone wants to call in tonight, and I know we're up against the game, so we may not get any callers tonight, and that's okay if we do. But if anyone wants to call in and play Baller or Blazer, they can play it instead of me.
Or you can challenge Jared DuBois. We can get somebody on the line, and I'll put it out there. I'll put the clue out there, and we'll have you guys buzz in, and you can challenge Jared DuBois, whether it's a Baller or a Blazer.
All right, so we'll do a pseudo round real quick with just me to see if so people can see how the game is played.
I don't have a lot of these, but I'm going to burn one right here on you. Ready?
Okay.
Let's see. I got to pick out a good one here. Let's see. Through a $200,000 party with a camel and a lion that was shut down by police. Baller or Blazer?
Okay, now there's two ways to think about this. First of all, Chuck Blazer has no need for a camel or a lion, so that on that side, like, it makes me think it's a rapper automatically. But this is this is a worldly man who maybe he was trying to court the vote of like an African a delegate or something like that. So he brought like a camel and a lion in to throw a theme party.
I've seen pictures of Chuck Blazer dressed up to indicate he may be currying the favor of people around the world and trying to get their cash in his pocket. So you tell me.
I'm gonna go with Baller on this one.
All right, the answer is Baller. Rapper Meek Mill threw that party this year.
I don't know who that is. How does he have money for a lion and a camel? I don't even know who that dude is.
He's a baller. That's what you do. You spend money you don't even have when you are balling out like that. In fact, I think Chuck is guilty of that on several occasions. Maybe not. Well, certainly not his money. That was the genius of Chuck Blazer when he was in the game. Spending other people's money. Why spend your own cash when you can spend other people's money.
And why pay taxes? Which is why it ultimately came down. And it came down just like, and a lot of people have made this note before me, but I mean, this came down just like Goodfellas. I mean, the guy basically didn't pay his taxes. The FBI said, "Hey, either you can go to jail, or you can start you can keep living your lifestyle a little bit on more frugally, and put this keychain on your table."
I love the details here too. The keychain on the table. They got the listening device and the keychain on the table. It talks about how he sent emails out to like all of his FIFA boys saying, "Hey, I'd like to have a meeting. Why don't we meet here in London?" And the other element of this, he argued against the use of the keychain listening device because he thought it was below him. He wanted something more legit. My man, Chuck.
Like he goes, "I don't have anything that has a key to it. Everything I own is like fingerprint identification. Why would I need a keychain?"
Yeah, well, I mean, he might need a keychain for the multiple scooters.
Safety deposit box.
Well,
scooters. Yes, a man whose life was so opulent and so rich, he had to be scooted down the street to his favorite 5-star dining establishments.
And as far as I know, Chuck Blazer's travel blog is still online. If you would like to go and
I know it is. You know how I know it is? Because Trevor has put out numerous pictures from it over the last 24 hours.
Yeah, he's grabbing the pics because Chuck was out. Chuck dressing up as Obi-Wan Kenobi. His whole family dressing up as Star Wars characters.
But what does this mean? That's great. But what does this mean? I mean, this is the New York Daily News maybe put out the story that could maybe really, really change FIFA. I mean, does this have that kind of power depending on what the FBI had? I mean, this is a big deal.
Has nothing to do. I don't think it has anything to do with this story coming out. I mean, that's not going to change anything. What's going to change something is maybe if the FBI really does have some dirt on some people that could effect some change. Now, I mean, the report is he got a bunch of people to meet with him. One guy who turned him down was Alan Rothenberg, but apparently everybody else showed up in London or wherever, and were in the room and were recorded by the keychain listening device. So I don't know who's on the record here, but this is the potential. I mean, this isn't new.
I wish I scanned it, and I wish there was a Qatari member involved. The closest thing I think there was the Russian delegate who got the World Cup. I mean, they met with him, so there could be something dirty coming out there regarding the 2018 World Cup bid process. What I think every American was hoping for is that there's something linked to the Qatari bid, and that maybe there could be a chance for to bring it back to 2022 back to the U.S. It's getting a longer and longer shot every day that passes, but I think that's one thing everyone was looking for. But I really think that this is the tip of the iceberg. If you think in the last 2 years, the Jack Warner and Chuck Blazer story broke. Jack Warner's been deposed. Chuck Blazer's been deposed. And you always knew that these guys were going to turn on each other the first chance they had. And here's your evidence of it now. Now it's just a matter of how much did these guys talk and how much stuff got out there. And does Sepp Blatter even care?
Yeah. That's the question. I will say this is the perfect example of that there is no honor among thieves, right? The fact that Chuck rolled over on Jack Warner the moment that it became necessary for him to do so, to cover his ass, to protect himself from whatever prosecution was coming his way. And the guy, he operated with impunity for 20 years. 20 years he just got to do whatever he wanted to do. And the details of what he did in CONCACAF weren't in this story because we found them out this summer. It was in that long BuzzFeed piece. The man negotiated a deal in which he got 10% of everything CONCACAF made. Back when they weren't making anything, he set this deal in. And every time CONCACAF got a TV contract, some marketing money, the man was pulling out 10% for himself, and nobody could call him on it because he controlled the books. He had access to the bank accounts for It's the biggest, most amazing scam I probably.
And we wonder why the Gold Cup was in the U.S. for so many years, where more money could be made. There's might be reasons for that. You know, U.S. is going to bring in more dollars. Chuck Blazer gets a little more off the top. I'm really anxious to see where this is going to go. I think for people that have been frustrated for FIFA for a long time, this is one more thing that, first of all, is going to make you pissed, but it could ultimately bring change, which is what we've wanted for quite some time. It's just a slow process of it all getting out there.
Perhaps this could change some things. All right, I'm going to put a 5-minute time limit on callers for Ballers and Baller or Blazer. And I know, look, I know we're going up against the game. There are other things happening. It's Sunday night. People are relaxing with their wine or their beer or their whatever else people partake in.
Four Loko.
Advocating. Yeah, Four Loko, that's still legal in places. I don't think you can get that.
I saw it I've seen it in stores here in California. I just don't know if it's the same mixture and potion that was originally out.
May have changed their recipe for Loco because they got in so much trouble. All right, let's in the next 5 minutes, since I'm putting that time limit on this. If you want to call in and play Baller or Blazer, it's 201-430-2378. If you have thoughts on anything else, hit us up at Best Soccer Show on Twitter. We'll get to that. But let's go. Actually, pulling this from I read the entire New York Daily News piece, and it was so there is a style for the New York Daily News, and that was perfectly in their style. But I'm pulling this from Evan McCauley at SB Nation, who identified a couple of the more interesting points of the story. Shoot. Number one, I'll skip. Number two, the fleet of mobility scooters, which I just mentioned with the keychain. At the middle of it all was the Falstaffian. Falstaffian, another way to say that he's a big fat guy.
I always think that to be more of a guy that lives for the moment.
Okay, you're right. Falstaff was more of a character that was he loved life.
There's kids right now, they're wondering who the hell Falstaff is.
He embraced everything life could give him, which means substances and food, and he just indulged. Yeah. He was a hedonist. That's what we're talking about here. He came to inhabit the world of private jets, famous friends, secret island getaways, offshore bank accounts. He eventually needed a fleet of mobility scooters to move from feast to feast, and you'll see that if you go to his travel blog. There's so many pictures of the man sitting on a scooter, just chilling on a scooter.
But isn't there part of you that's jealous of Chuck Blazer?
Oh, absolutely.
He had the stones to do it.
I am not devoid of guilt enough to be that guy. I completely respect. Again, I respect the hustle.
This comes down to what my wife and I say about our lives all the time. All I want is a rich friend. All I want to be is the Chuck Blazer's friend. Can you imagine how fun it would be to be Chuck Blazer's friend? None of the guilt, none of the connections to where this money came from. But you're going on all the vacations, you're eating all the lobster. You get to have a scooter at your disposal. All I've ever wanted was a rascal. You know those ones that what's the word we used for large earlier?
Corpulent
people use at the supermarket. To get around. All I've ever wanted is to be on rascal status.
Yeah, absolutely. Blazer, this is what I was talking about, spending other people's money. In 2005, Blazer had CONCACAF spend $48,554 for a 2004 Hummer H2 Sport utility vehicle for him and his girlfriend. CONCACAF paid insurance for the vehicle and spent more than $21,600 to keep the vehicle parked at a garage near CONCACAF's New York office. $21,000 to park the thing in New York because, he needed it.
Yeah, that's one of many Hummers that money bought. I can tell you right now.
All right, I mentioned the arguing with the FBI over how to record the secret conversations. The New York Daily News went to the hospital. The man's laid up in the hospital with colon cancer, which, by the way, is no joke. That is some
absolutely not. And I'm sorry to make any kind of light of it if people think that's what we're doing right now. But this is when guys tend to talk. These are journalists. They know they know when guys are really ready to talk. People are ready to talk on two occasions, and they both have shown themselves in Chuck Blazer. When you're caught and when you're about to go out. And that's when people talk. So FBI got him on one side, the New York Daily News got him on the other. And it all comes out to one of the best. It is one of the only articles that could come out to pull me away from a MLS playoff game in the middle of it.
Yeah.
I tuned out. Luckily, I did it. It came out at halftime. But, this story is sexy for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah, it absolutely is. All right, I'm going to call time on this. Let's play Baller or Blazer with one Jared DuBois.
All right.
Here on the Best Soccer Show, I've got 11 facts. Some of these you may or not. Maybe we do have a call. Maybe Scott wants to play. Scott, what's up?
Hey, I want to play Baller versus Blazer.
All right. Let's put you up.
Is this Scott in LA?
Scott.
No, Scott from Florida.
Okay.
Scott. If it was Scott in LA, I have maybe a little Matador thing I'd give out if it was if he could beat me. But I ain't shipping anything to Florida.
I do wish we had something to give away. I was going to offer up a scarf. I'm not sure you want any of those, Scott, and I'm not sure we got anything for you. But winning could be its own reward here on the Best Soccer Show. So I'm going to pit Jared DuBois up against Scott for Baller or Blazer. Okay. So what I want you to do is I'm going to read the facts. As soon as I'm done, you say your name. That's buzzing in. I'll go to you. So we'll.
How about this, Jason? Why don't we go through 11? Whoever has the best score at the end of the 11 is the winner. We'll both pick every time.
Okay, it's a little harder to keep track of, I suppose, but we can do that. That actually would mean less talking over each other, and that's probably all right, Scott. So we're gonna change. Forget what I just said. You're gonna get a guess, and Jared will get a guess. You ready?
Yeah.
All right. Let's do this one. I think this one's pretty easy. You may already know this one. Baller or Blazer had a separate apartment in the Trump Towers just for his cats. Scott, Baller or Blazer?
I'm going to say Blazer.
All right, Jared DuBois. Baller
this
or Blazer?
is the one fact I actually knew, so I'm going to say he is correct, and that is Chuck Blazer.
It is Chuck Blazer. Had a separate apartment in the Trump Towers just for his cats. How many damn cats did the man have? That's what I want to know.
That could also be a euphemism for what he kept next door. I'm not quite sure.
All right. See, I'm going no.
Jay Rodius.
No, not going down that line. All right. Number 2, bought his son Maybachs on consecutive birthdays. Baller or Blazer? Scott first.
I'm going to say Baller.
Trevor. Jared, go ahead.
Oh, man. I don't know if anyone actually procreated with Chuck Blazer. Oh, I know he did because he started as a coach for his kids' teams. So he does have kids. Oh, man. That was going to make me think it was. I don't think he could get away with writing off and doing gifts for family. So I'm going to go with Baller as well.
That is P. Diddy bought Maybachs for his kid on 2 consecutive birthdays. Seriously.
Some kids just got so lucky. Some kids get so lucky.
Let's do this one. All right. Baller or Blazer? Bought an $11,000 wheelchair. Baller or Blazer?
$11,000 what?
Wheelchair. Go ahead, Scott. Go ahead.
I mean, Blazer's the scooter guy, so I'm going to go with him.
Okay, Blazer. Scott says Blazer. Jared, Baller or Blazer?
I think by the time he needed a wheelchair, the jig was up, so he might not have had money for it. So I'm going to go with Baller.
Okay. The caveat here is that this wheelchair was purchased for a fan, and so it is Baller. Lil Wayne bought an $11,000 wheelchair.
Yeah.
Jared's up 2-1 on Scott right now. All right, let's do this one. Purchased adjoining South Beach apartments for $810,000. Let me switch it up. Jared, go first. Baller or Blazer?
Oh, I know he had a lot of business in Florida, but he already had. I'm gonna go with Baller.
Okay, Baller. Scott bought adjoining apartments in South Beach for $810,000. Baller or Blazer?
I'm going to say Blazer for when he was wheeling and dealing those FIFA people.
It is Blazer. Oh. He did.
We're even.
So it's 2-2 at this point. That's a nice tight race. This is how I like it. All right, so we've got. Let me just make sure I don't repeat myself. All right, spent $350,000 on a Sistine Chapel style ceiling in his dining room. Baller or Blazer? Scott, you can go first this time.
I'm going to go Baller.
Ballers from Scott. Jared?
I'm going to go Baller. I don't think Chuck Blazer wanted to be reminded of any of the sins he was committing by looking up.
You don't think he had himself painted as Adam in the Sistine? No, of course not. It was
I don't
Kanye.
think there was enough room on the ceiling for him to paint himself as Adam.
Kanye did that. So, yeah, you guys are both right. It is Baller. All right, let's see what I've got left here. All right, hired a guy just to take care of his blue macaw, his pet blue macaw. Baller or Blazer? Jared, go first.
Is this the movie Rio? Let's see. I don't know if he already had. If you got cats, you can't really have a bird, right? So I'm gonna be, unless he fed the blue macaw to him. That's really baller. That's really baller. If you had a blue macaw just to give like some food for your cats. I'm gonna go with Baller on this one.
Jared says Baller. Scott?
I'm gonna say Blazer.
Scott gets it right. It's Blazer.
He has cats and a bird.
I guess so. This was in the New York Times or the BuzzFeed piece. Actually, it says that he had a blue macaw and there was an employee. He was paying the dude's mortgage, and his job was basically just to take care of Chuck Blazer's blue macaw. So there you go. I think Scott's up 3-2 at this point.
He is. He's one up on me right now.
All right, let's see. We've got a couple more left. All right. Paid for a party of 40. Excuse me. Paid for the entire party of 40 to go to Spago in L.A. Baller or Blazer? Jared?
He loves good food and fine dining restaurants, but I'm gonna go with Blazer on this. If it's food, I gotta pick Blazer if it's food.
All right, Scott, what do you think? 40 people at Spago.
I'm gonna go Baller.
It's Blazer. So Jared, point there. Scott, you missed that. Yeah, I think you went against your instinct, man. Jared was right. The food thing is probably gonna be Blazer.
If it was strippers, I would have said Baller. If it's food, I'm gonna go with Blazer.
All right, I got a couple more here. Let's see. Baller or Blazer loved Wingstop so much he bought a franchise. Baller, Blazer, Jared
I
DuBois.
want this to be Blazer so bad. I want this to be Blazer. He just needed wings in such great quantity. His scooter wasn't enough to get it there quick enough. He just had to have a guy on standby, a restaurant on standby. I'm going to go with Blazer because I want it to be true.
Okay, Jared wants it to be Blazer, so he's going Blazer. Scott, what do you say?
I've heard it's Rick Ross, but I could be wrong, so I'm going to go Baller.
It is Rick Ross. Baller with the point there. I think it's like 4-3 at this
He's
point.
up one on me. He's up one on me.
It is +1 on you right now.
The thing is, I know that one was Baller too, but I wanted it to be true so bad.
Oh, I know. We've got 2 left, so it's going to come down to the wire here. All right, this one. Bought $28,000 worth of white orchids for a birthday party. Baller, Blazer. Scott first.
I'm going to go Blazer.
Blazer buying white orchids, $28,000 worth of white orchids. Jared, Baller.
He seems like a classy man, so I'm going to go with Chuck Blazer.
Baller. He did that for his wife. Yeah.
White parties. He has white parties. That's right. Dang it.
All right, I've got one more. All right, one more. This one's not as specific. It might be a little tough. This guy lived in an apartment on 5th Avenue that cost $18,000 a month. Baller or Blazer? Scott, go ahead. This is it, by the way.
Baller.
Baller, he says. Jared.
I have to go separate because I need the chance to even it up, so I will go with Blazer.
It is Blazer. Jared comes back and gets the draw. Scott, man, I don't know what
I
happened.
have to break the tie. Each of us take a guess at his weight. The person that goes over loses.
I feel like you came back against the run of play, Jared. I don't know. And going with the Wingstop Blazer just because you wanted to, that's a ballsy move. That's sending guys forward.
Don't you want to live in an America where that is true?
Yeah, absolutely. Scott, man, you got anything else you want to talk about before I let you go?
No, just enjoying the show.
All right, man. Appreciate the phone call. Scott from Florida playing Baller or Blazer. That's brilliant. We need more facts. I need more.
Scott, hit us up on Twitter. We'll give you a shout on Twitter. Hit us up with what your Twitter name is, man.
Definitely need to do that. All right, we've got roughly half the show left. We got no score in Frisco, right? It's still 0-0 there in Frisco, Texas.
0-0, 19 minutes in, and you know what? I have it streaming. I don't even have it up in front of me. I was having so much fun playing Baller or Blazer.
Yeah, there you go. It's a fun time to play Baller or Blazer. I just love the fact that you guys. There were some of those guys where you weren't even sure. You couldn't even really.
I told you. I made myself stop reading it as soon as I had the idea because I knew one of us had to have virgin ears.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so we've got MLS playoff action to start. Let's
Femi Martins just kicked the bottom of a guy's boot. That looks like it really hurt. He's down. That's
okay.
Ouch.
We'll see what happens to Obafemi Martins in the Seattle game against FC Dallas there in Frisco. Let's go back and review some of these matches so far in the playoffs. Let's start with the knockout round games. We won't spend a lot of time on these, Jared, mostly because they're already in distant memory at this point. But just your quick thoughts on Vancouver losing to FC Dallas on what a lot of people think is a controversial penalty. Kendall Waston getting hit with a handball in the box.
I'm from the Alexi Lawless school, I think, of handballs, where it's like, I don't think it should be as simple as just it hits your arm as a handball, because that's not what the rules state. But listen, the guy's in the penalty box, his arm's away from his body. He's leaning into it to try to get it with his chest, misses, it hits his arm. I get it. It's a handball.
I mean, the arm's away from his body. Where's his arm supposed to go? It was against his body.
He could have tucked it behind his back, and he didn't.
Okay.
Listen, did he lean into it to try to get his chest?
He definitely tried to chest the ball.
Okay, so if you have enough time to react to lean your body into it, you have enough time to react to get your arm away from it.
All right, fair enough. And in any case, it's over. It's done with. FC Dallas moved on, and now they're taking on the Seattle Sounders, top seed in the West.
The right team, based on the course of the season, it moved on. What I would like to have seen the first Cascadia playoff matchup. That would have been really fun. It would have been really fun to see a Vancouver versus Seattle matchup. But because Portland and Seattle didn't play last year, right?
Yes, they did play last year. Yes.
Did they play last year?
Yes, Portland won that series.
Yes. Oh, you know what? That's right, because LA had RSL last year. I apologize. You're right. LA had RSL.
Yeah,
it would have been nice to have Cascadia, but I think the better of the two teams, the more entertaining teams, I think the one that was going to give Seattle more of a run for their money made it through. I think the bigger story is the fact that MLS Cup champions, Sporting Kansas City, failed exactly where they failed all down the stretch at home and lost to I'm sorry, not at home. That was it. No, that was it.
They lost at home in the season finale, then had to go on the road to play the Red Bulls at Red Bull Arena in a knockout game. But they went up a goal on the Red Bulls couldn't make their chances count. Brother Phillips had a chance. Henry had a chance. Tim Cahill was wide open in front of net and skied one over the bar for the Red Bulls in the first half, and you thought maybe everything was going to be Metro again. It's going to be Metro again, and they're going to screw this up. And then Sporting Kansas City went up after Eric Alexander turned the ball over in midfield, and Benny Feilhaber played a perfect ball to Dom Dwyer. Benny Feilhaber had a fantastic season. Let's just take a second to recognize how good he was for Sporting this year. Dwyer puts them up a goal, and you think, okay, well, the Red Bulls really got to pull it out here. You get a nice pass from Henry. Why he has space on the left like that is a good question. But you get Henry passing to Bradley Wright Phillips for the equalizer. And then that Oyongo cross balloon ball that for whatever reason Kronberg didn't come out for. Nobody's marking Bradley Wright Phillips tight enough. He goes up and he heads it to the back post. And yeah, I mean, it was weird. It was sort of the anti-New York sort of playoff game. You never see them get the breaks like that. They did that. And then, we'll flash forward to the all of the conference semifinals. I mean, I don't think we have to do these in chronological order. We can talk about today and the Red Bulls against DC United at that stadium. The first leg of the series, obviously DC's got a chance to turn it around at RFK, but 2-0 for the Red Bulls. It's a pretty strong lead, and they dominated that game for about 3/4 of it.
If I remember correctly, that's the first time New York has won a playoff game against DC since 1996, and even that one was like a shootout, I believe, in overtime. So I think you're right when you talk about that's so Metro. And the last 2 years, New York has done a lot to put that to bed, winning the Supporters Shield last year, and then this year taking what's been one of the best East Coast rivalries over the last couple of seasons in New York, and Kansas City to the brink, and making sure that they proved that they were the better team over 2 legs. Technically, I mean, it's only 1 leg for the playoffs, but 2 games in a row. And now you see them beating up on DC United. And make no mistake about it, that was beating. I mean, the scoreline isn't really as accurate as how one-sided that game was. New York dominated that game.
There's a couple ways to look at that game. I thought DC had their chances to kind of take some control. They certainly had some possession in the first half, and they knocked the ball around a bit, but they just couldn't get anything working. I don't think Espindola and Johnson work well together. They play on their own in their own little orbits.
They need Luis Silva in there, a guy that's young enough to not have too much of an ego. He's going to do what the right smart thing is, and not try to worry about getting his shot off. Where Eddie Johnson and Espindola, both those guys want their name in lights.
Absolutely. And so eventually when the Red Bulls kind of put their foot on DC United's throat and scored the goals they got, Henry, again, brilliant with the back heel that Lyandula, perfectly left for Bradley Wright Phillips, the right play there. And then obviously you had Lyandula being played through by Henry with the ball over the top, inch perfect ball over the top, and great control by Lyandula. Let's not forget about that part. He was key.
Beautiful first touch.
He got the goal in the second one, but he was key in the first goal as well. But so the other way to look at it, though, is that the Red Bulls didn't take their advantage as much as they should have. They dominated that game, again, for 3/4 of it. They had more of the ball. They had the better chances, and you only go back to DC up 2-0. Yeah, that's the scoreline DC can turn around. If it was 3,
everyone's talking about it has to be 3-0. No, it doesn't have to be 2-0, and then you can win it in overtime or shootouts. I mean, it's not anything that's 3-0 would be a much harder scoreline. Trust me, you'd much rather be DC than the Columbus Crew right now.
Well, here's the question. What do you do if you're Mike Petke? Okay, so you just played 2 games in 4 days to get to this point. You get a week's rest or 6 days rest before you go to DC. You're up 2 goals. That's a pretty healthy lead to protect. I mean, it's healthier than 1 goal, obviously. Do you just sit back, bunker in, try to keep DC, who obviously has had some attacking issues from getting on the scoreboard, or do you maybe go a little bit forward? Because if you get one with the away goal rule in effect now, that means DC United has to get 4.
Yeah, I think you do push. I mean, if you're New York, where's your strength? Your strength is in the front. Your strength isn't in the back. I mean, Olave is probably 2 seasons past his prime at this point.
He was good today. I think
he was good today. He was good today, and as was Eckersley. I think Eckersley actually was one of the better players of the day, and I don't know if I'd say that about his whole season. But if you're going to bet on one part of your field in New York, you're going to bet on your offense. And right now, you have maybe the hottest striker in the entire league in Bradley Wright Phillips and the best playmaker in Thierry Henry. You use that. I think you push. I mean, I don't think you make any lineup changes. I think the lineup's just right. You're still going to have Cog in the middle with Alexander and Dax McCarty.
I think maybe the change you make is you sit Lyandula for Cahill if you are trying to muck it up a little bit more. I'm not saying
Cahill will give you a little bit more defensively, but Yeah,
Well, that's
but obviously there's something there for Pepke that he doesn't feel Cahill is working for this team. It's obvious in the fact he's barely chosen the guy over the last couple of months. Right. There's something that he thinks isn't right. I think it's personality wise. I don't know if it's a choice he's making for one skill or technique over another. I think it's the fact that I don't think he's the guy that he sees as a starter and embodying the spirit that he wants his club, which is shocking because Tim Cahill's never shown himself, in my opinion, to be anything but a team player.
Isn't that what he was last year? Wasn't he the gritty New York style player? I mean, he's obviously, but he was the guy that was what New York was supposed to be, and he won games for them in the last minute with, just outworking people. And now all of a sudden he's not good enough for that role, and it is interesting. But again, Lion Dooley, you can't sit him down. Based on the way he's played the last couple of times out, you can't sit him down now. So
I agree, and you're not going to sit Lloyd Sam by any measure. That's probably the best one-on-one guy in the whole league right now.
Lloyd Sam is fun to watch, even when he doesn't.
He's Darlington Nagbe this year.
Okay, maybe a little bit of that, sure. You want him in space. At one point during that game today, I tweeted, if I'm Petke, I want my team to get Lloyd Sam the ball in space every single time down the field because he's that dangerous for the New York Red Bulls. They head to RFK Stadium against their rivals with a 2-0 lead. Let's move around the rest of these playoff series. We can start again. We'll go back and talk about the Revolution in the Eastern Conference now. 4-2 winners at the Columbus Crew. Charlie Davies with a pair of goals. The Revolution just look really, really good right now. Now, you could argue that giving up 2 isn't great, but when you score 4, you're not that worried about it.
Yeah, you hope that you can take care of business on. I think you just hope you can take care of business on the other side. I mean, these are 4 away goals. New England Columbus gave out 4 away goals. I mean, it's got to be a brutal comeback right now and Precourt said it himself. He's like, we got a lot of work we made for ourselves. He tweeted that out afterwards. But I think this game should be thrown out, Jason.
Okay, give me a reason. I want to know why.
You can't let a guy play with a conch in his cornrows. How is Jermaine Jones playing with a conch shell in the middle of his cornrows? Someone's gonna die.
I didn't even notice that.
He's got a conch shell in the back of his row here.
That should not be allowed. You can't be wearing stuff or having stuff that can swing and like.
He's not on vacation in Jamaica getting his hair beaded. Okay, you can't be rolling like that.
If he goes up for a 50-50 ball in the air and somebody goes for the ball, misses and hits the back of his head, I mean, come on.
What's next? A shark tooth?
That's exactly. That's pretty crazy. So. In essence, what we're asking here, what I'm going to ask you, Jared, is whether or not the Columbus Crew are capable of winning 3-0 on the road in New England.
Yes, that's what I just don't think it's very likely. I think New England did themselves no service of giving that penalty at the end. I think it was really cut and dry when it was 4-1 by letting the Columbus at least having a little bit back. I think at Columbus they can win 3-0 in New England. I just don't think it's likely, not likely at all, especially when New England has what is one of the best. I think Caldwell is Caldwell's the guy people aren't talking about that much right now in this New England lineup, and that's because he's doing a lot of silent things next to Jermaine Jones. If you look the way Jermaine Jones played in that game, he was everywhere. He was up front, he was in the back, he was out wide, and because Caldwell's staying home. And I think that's not something we thought was going to happen when Jermaine Jones got to this team. I think we thought he was going to be the stay-at-home guy and allow everyone else to flourish around him. But by Caldwell staying more at home, it's allowed Jermaine Jones to be... Listen, is he one of the best passers in the world? No. Even on the U.S. national team? No. I think you both have issues with sometimes his passing choices. But in MLS, he's a pretty damn good passer. And he's combining really well and getting Lee Nguyen into good spots. And he's got an amazing engine still that can cover the full field. Jermaine Jones is everywhere right now.
Do you think... We talked about this, Jermaine Jones bringing an edge to the Revolution. Was that, in retrospect, was that really fair? This is a Jay Heaps coach team. I mean, let's not forget that. This is a fiery guy.
Did you think of anyone on that team as hard, though?
No, and that's the thing. Is it about being hard or is it about being feisty? I mean, where do we put this? Because, I'm watching that game on Saturday, and the Revolution are just taking the Columbus Crew apart, and I'm seeing Kellen Rowe get into it. I'm seeing Lee Nguyen get fired up, and I'm wondering, is this something that comes from Jermaine Jones's influence, or are we just seeing more of what they naturally had, but we're paying attention to it more because of Jermaine Jones?
No, I think he's bringing it all together. I really do. He's like the dude's rug. It really ties the room together. What was that?
Apparently, we've got a penalty in Dallas. FC Dallas gets a penalty call, so we'll keep an eye on that. Go ahead and talk a little bit more about the.
I think Jermaine Jones. like I said, I think he's like the dude's rug, ties the room together. It's what does it make. I don't think if I thought of them as a hard team before at all. Are they a team with desire? Yes. Look at Charlie Davies and the fight that's in that kid. I mean, they're a team that's willing to fight, but I just don't think I thought of them as the type of team that gets stuck in, the type of team that goes hard on into tackles or anything like that. Jermaine Jones brings that to him, and he brings a work rate that's really high. I just think he's really rounded the team out. Lee Wynn was always good. Kellen Rowe was always really good. I think they have less to do on the backside of the ball right now, and that's what's making him so dangerous. What's really surprising is how little influence Diego Fagundes has had in this team this year. That's the real big surprise.
Yeah, didn't start against Columbus, the wonderkind. By the way, I'm gonna give this out for Chris Tierney, because that free kick was about drop dead perfect. You can't do it any better than what Chris Tierney did for that goal by the Revolution.
What about that Chuck D run for the diving header, completely unmarked? First of all, that's Columbus's bad, but I mean that's just the way when it's supposed to be on the practice field, you know. And Charlie Davies had probably the best game he's had in 3 years. He was everywhere on the field. He was fighting for everything. The kid looked like he was playing with a freedom you haven't seen in quite some time. And it speaks a lot to Jay Heaps, I'm sure, for Charlie Davies to have the trust of your coach. And despite everything that's been going on, the inconsistencies over the last couple of years, to be the guy that's chosen when it came down to it on that field, and to pay him back for that trust, I would not bet against Charlie Davies the rest of this postseason.
Yep, Charlie Davies, 3 goals in the regular season, 2 goals on Saturday in the playoffs. If that's the kind of production they're going to get out of him, watch out.
2 well-taken goals.
Yeah, New England Revolution in the Eastern Conference. In the West, the RSL hosting LA in the first leg of that series. By the way, FC Dallas up. Well, you're not listening to this live, but 1-0 FC Dallas over the Sounders in Frisco right now. Dallas desperately needs to get home, something out of their home leg. Otherwise, they're screwed. There's no chance at all for them going back to Seattle. That other Western Conference matchup, RSL hosting LA, produced 0 goals, but Jaime Pinedo stood on his head. Yeah. And, I from your perspective as a Galaxy fan, does that game bother you, worry you a little bit? It definitely looked like RSL should have gotten out of there. I mean, you could, after the fact, Jared, you can be happy that it came out nothing. But during the game, you got to be frustrated by the way LA is playing.
I think that they are sputtering at the worst possible time. This doesn't seem like it doesn't feel like the same LA team a month ago that could do no wrong. Every goal was going in. Giassi Zardes hasn't been as consistent as he was during that stretch. A lot of people are out there today complaining about the ref. The ref doesn't make Robbie Keane miss a 18-yard wide open shot like 10 minutes in and shoot it right at Nick Raimondo. Yeah. There's things that LA could have done differently to take the referee out of the game, and they didn't do so. They got lucky in a lot of respects as well, because Jaime Pinedo made some absolutely fantastic saves. I think the refereeing wasn't good. I think they did get a legit goal called back, but I also think LA didn't do enough to take this game from RSL as well. One thing they do have going for them, that they're going to go play in LA where they've only lost once all season, and that was to RSL in the very first game of the year, in a game that they probably were the better team in that regard. One thing it'd be interesting to me is if it comes full circle and LA gets a penalty call, do they let Robbie Keane take that penalty after missing the penalty in the first game of the season against RSL for their only loss, and missing, I think, 3 on the season? Is it 3 he missed, I think, this year? Do you let Robbie Keane take that penalty, or do you give it to someone like Landon Donovan, Marcelo Sarvis? Who do you give that to?
There's a rule. Okay, never doubt Dom Kinnear. That's out the window. If you have Landon Donovan on your team, you let Landon Donovan take the penalty. There's no. We
say that, but remember he went through a really bad time where he missed consistently, and that's when it became Robbie Keane's duty.
I understand he had some rough patches, but I still think the odds are always in your favor if Landon Donovan's taking the penalty. I would always hand it.
Even when it's against Nick Raimondo?
Nick Raimondo is going to save people, whether it's Robbie Keane, Landon Donovan, Marcelo Sarr. It doesn't matter who takes it. Nick Raimondo is going to get his. So I think you put the one that's got the most experience, has made the most penalties over the course of his career, and that's Landon Donovan. And you see, put your best up against the best, and you see what happens. But it's not even there yet. I do think that this sets up, obviously in LA's favor. You go on the road, you get a scoreless draw, you're fine. But they can't go down a goal. They can't go down a goal against RSL, because then they need 2.
Well, not just that. Yeah, no, RSL's got one of the best offenses in the entire league as well. And I loved that Luis. Listen, unfortunate for Ned Grabavoy that he couldn't play last night because I'm a big Ned Grabavoy fan, but we got to see Luis Gil pull some really nice moves off last night. You almost forget what Luis Gil's lost his place in this team because of Luke Mulholland for the most part, but you forget the kid's got so much talent. The back heel nutmeg to a secondary nutmeg. Come on.
Look, Jeff Cassar knows his team. I'm not going to second guess the man. I just want to see Luis Gil play. And I know Luke Mulholland is a nice player who came out from the lower divisions and is making his name in MLS and has played very well for them. He scored some nice goals this year. I don't understand how Luis Gil's not on the field. I know maybe it's positional discipline. Maybe it's about work rate. That may be part of it. Maybe defensively, they think Mulholland gives them something more. Maybe it's about the being strict within the system, but Gil's been there for a couple years now. He knows the system.
Luke Mulholland has a great ability to play very simple ball, which is what I think they need a lot of the time in RSL, just to get the ball to the feet of the guys they're supposed to create. RSL's problem is a very 1% problem that they have too many guys that know how to create, and you got to have functional players in there somewhere too. I mean, if you're Jeff Cassar, you get the feeling he's parking 3 Ferraris in the garage and taking his economy class car to work every day because you got like Sebastian Velasquez, Omez Garcia, you have Luis Gil. You got all these guys that are flash, but I think he's smart in that you got to have a couple of guys out there. They're just going to do the simple thing every time on both sides of the ball, and you let the Javier Morales do his thing. You let the Joao Plata do his thing, and I think be really kind of realistic in the approach that he takes on the team, and it's working for him.
Okay, that's fair enough. By the way, Chris Schuler back for RSL. I didn't think it was going to happen. There he is, wearing the mask, doing his thing. It's a big boost for RSL, and it was something that was said on the broadcast. It's not necessarily just about Chris Schuler being a good defender, which he is. It's about him occupying Omar Gonzalez on set pieces, because Omar Gonzalez is the biggest threat that LA has on set piece opportunities. You got that 6'5" guy in there. If Chris Schuler's in there to body him up, to take him out of the play, that removes one of the threats that LA has on that end of the field, and that's a benefit to RSL. Now, again, this thing is teetering going back to LA next weekend, because obviously this is a scoreless draw is fine for the Galaxy, but because they didn't get that away goal, they just have to guard against. This is why people are going to doubt the away goal rule. What does it benefit LA to go for it at home, risk getting caught out? Because then again, like I said, you need
it goes both ways though. What risk is there for the away team? That's usually why this rule is put into place, because the away team is the one that won't go out and play. They want to make everything ugly. I think that I don't mind it because I think it's harder to get the away team to go out and play, and I think this rule does that. I think the pressure from the home fans, they don't want to see a team bunker in there. I think the home team bunkering in on a 0-0 level like this is far less likely because the home team wants them to play. That's always going to get, and no team wants to let down their home fans. How do you hear your fans chanting for you and singing for you and not want to do what you do best? And which is for LA, move the ball. Move the ball, score goals. And you saw the wind really played a factor in this game. A lot of kind of very similar when we watched that Seattle game where the ball kept. And with the Seattle game, the ball was up in the air too much. Neither team got to play the way they wanted. You saw it in this game as well that the teams just couldn't measure the 20-yard ball quite right.
Yeah, absolutely not. It was an issue. I mean, this is why a place like Red Bull Arena is interesting within MLS, completely enclosed the way that it is. It was windy outside, and it's been blustery up and down the East Coast this weekend. It didn't have an impact on that game. And you saw at one point, Thierry Henry put a 70-yard diagonal ball on the feet of somebody. This is Thursday night, and not necessarily today. But he also a great ball today, a couple of great balls today. Just insane across a diagonal ball, 70 yards across the field on a dime. Pretty stunning stuff. I know people are going to get sick of this, just sort of the way they got sick of the Donovan love at the end of the regular season because it's his last year. But please just recognize what you get to see when Thierry Henry's on the field in an MLS uniform. Just please
I think he's coming back. Why wouldn't you announce it and get all the fanfare and get all the love?
He's not that guy. He'll walk. And
you don't think he's a guy that wants attention?
Here's the other thing. He might not be done. He might be done with the Red Bulls because his contract is up, but he might not be done playing. And the rumor is that he might pull a Drogba, go back to Arsenal, be a sub. Sit on the bench, be a sub, be a mentor, be a coach.
Or you could be like Steven Gerrard and go to the Cosmos.
That's the you bring that rumor up. I that is of all of the rumors I've heard this year, and I've heard some pretty insane. That's the most insane rumor I've heard this year. Why would and I know he's always said that he's always said that if he's going to play in England, it's going to be for Liverpool. You can't imagine him playing for anybody else. But why the why the Cosmos? And I'm not. That's not really hating on the Cosmos because I'm sure they can pay him a decent. But no, but think about it.
He doesn't have to. LA would pay for him. I mean, New York Red Bulls, if Thierry Henry has to leave, I mean, that's a guy that they could bring in. You think about Thierry Henry's playing in the midfield more than anything else. I mean, that'd be a great like-for-like replacement. If you think Landon Donovan, the gap that LA is going to have, that guy that can create from midfield, they're going to be looking for that as well. Gerrard could go there. It does seem kind of odd to go to the Cosmos when there's plenty of good options. Is there any difference between NYCFC signing Frank Lampard and Gerrard going to one of his other teams? Very like players at same parts of their career.
Yeah, no, that's true. It's true. I think
is it sexy? No.
I think Gerrard could come here and do a job. Yeah, I'm not saying he wouldn't be a star on some. I mean, he's certainly a name star, but I mean, he
both cities have pubs.
Okay, yeah, we all like. we all like our why am I blanking on the guy's name? Damn it. Who? The musician that he reportedly got into the fight over at the disco in Liverpool.
I don't remember. It wasn't Robbie Williams, was it?
No.
He loves me some Robbie Williams.
No, it's the guy from Genesis. Why am I blanking on his
name?
Phil
Collins?
Phil Collins. He loves himself from Phil Collins. Who doesn't love Phil Collins, right? I didn't remember
something in the air tonight, man.
All right, let's close out the show with a little bit of talk about from Jurgen Klinsmann about the status of Americans in Europe. We've already gone through this MLS criticism controversy. Jurgen Klinsmann making comments about Mike Bradley coming back, Clemson being here, Don Garber shooting back his opinion on whether or not Klinsmann should be saying these things. But now Klinsmann has sort of doubled down on the entire team. And he's checked all of the boxes now, Jared, because now he's talking about the European guys. We want our players to become more consistent and more demanding in what they're doing. But what we see here, we want the players to challenge themselves to the highest level. Right now, at the end of 2014, going into the last two friendly games, looking at the last couple of months, it's a bit of a concern for us because a lot of our players that played really well in the World Cup and were consistent and worked very, very hard really dropped their performances after the World Cup. Even if they're starters with their teams, or in many cases, unfortunately, not starters with their teams anymore. And I'm looking more at the European players in this moment. This is something we have to improve over the next years. Our players have to become stronger to kind of deal with that big moment and then kind of go back into their season and making sure that they play in their club team at the highest level, and especially as starters. It takes more professionalism and strength to come after a World Cup and show those performances again in your club level. And the problem, he didn't mention specifics, but there's something like
looking at you, Josie.
Of the guys in Europe who were on that World Cup squad, Aaron Johansson, injured. He wasn't on the World Cup squad. But
Fabian Johnson.
Injured. Josie Altidore hasn't started 9 matches for Sunderland. Julian Green started 1 of 9 matches for Hamburg on loan. Jeff Cameron started 1 of 9 matches for Stoke City. Fabian Johnson, 3 of 9 for Gladbach. Timmy Chandler, 3 of 9 for Eintracht Frankfurt. John Brooks, 3 of 9 for Hertha Berlin. So on and so forth. And then you got your goalkeepers. They're all playing. That's the only guys playing right now. And Alejandro Bedoya, 7 of 11 starts in France.
Well, so a big part of it is that there's just not enough Americans in Europe. And I think Jurgen Klinsmann, that his frustration is there to start. And then of the Americans in Europe, he's right. No one's performing. No one's getting the games they need to be getting. I mean, you could say something about a World Cup letdown. Guys usually have to be rested a bit after that, and they get slower starts. But the fact that Fabian Johnson changed teams and is not the first choice right back or even first choice right midfielder for Borussia Mönchengladbach makes you really question why did he go there in the first place. And I think that's the one that's really surprising. That was probably one of the best right backs of the entire World Cup, and he can't get a sniff at his own team.
Here's the question for you. Is this a big problem, a meta problem, an American soccer problem, or is this a matter of specific individual circumstances at these teams? Because, yeah, maybe Fabian Johnson picked the wrong team. Obviously, Julian Green's a very young player, not there yet. Jeff Cameron started the season injured and hasn't gotten back into the team. You got a couple of other guys on this list. Obviously, Josie can't score goals. That's why he's not playing, so that's trouble. But do you think it's a big picture American soccer problem, or just it happens to be at this moment? guys are struggling.
I think there is a big picture American soccer problem, but I don't think that's what it is. I don't think the big picture soccer problem is guys having a stigma against them as Americans and not being able to get time at their club.
That's what I mean.
Okay, what are you saying then?
I'm saying, are we not producing players who are good enough to go to Europe and play in these mid-level?
I think that is kind of close to what I think is the problem, but I would say it differently. I don't know that America isn't making players good enough at that level. I think, unfortunately, Americans don't feel the pressure to go there anymore. And that's because the salaries in MLS, and they're getting the opportunities here. Do you have any doubt in your mind that a guy like Graham Zusi could play at least at the championship level, if not at a lower class Premier League team level? He could do it.
When he's confident and on his game, yeah, he could be fine there. Yeah,
I mean, sure. And Michael Bradley, obviously, Michael Bradley could play probably more to any league he wanted to.
Every American every World Cup player who's in MLS now is at least a championship level player, right? Is there anybody you would say would struggle?
That was on that World Cup team? That was on that World Cup team? Yeah, Chris Wallace might be the only one that might struggle. But no, I don't think so. I think it's a fair thing to say. I think Julian Green actually has stuff to prove still. I mean, there's a question mark there just because he's so young. But outside of that, yeah. But the dangerous thing is we have another guy that may be in the same position in the next couple of months. DeAndre Yedlin's going to Spurs. Does anyone think he's going to go there and start and get first-team performance? Get first-team appearances? He might get a couple.
As long as Kyle Walker's hurt, you at least got to have some hope, right? A little bit. I don't know when
the thing is, he wants guys in week in, week out. And listen, I think it's the right decision for DeAndre Yedlin to go out and spread his wings. I'm nervous at the choice of Tottenham in that they're a team that has to win. They have the money to pay for players to win. So you can get easily lost in a team like that.
Okay. And Trevor's a Spurs guy. He's pointing out that they're giving the kids a chance. Harry Kane's getting a lot of playing time, scored another goal for them this weekend. There is every reason to be scared about that situation. I just want to make sure. I just wonder if it's the right thing for us to do to take these individual circumstances, these individual issues. Remember, we've got a lot of guys playing in MLS, and they all went to the World Cup, and some of them are tired and haven't played well, but they're going to be starters and they're going to play games. They're not going anywhere on that level.
But we're not seeing that letdown in MLS. So the same type of players are at the World Cup. So why do these guys get that reason?
That's a good question. I mean, yeah, no, we're seeing MLS guys who are struggling post World Cup. Absolutely, we are.
Not many in MLS.
Matt Beasler had a terrible stretch run with Sporting Kansas City. Absolutely,
yeah, but so did Colin. So did Rayleigh and Colin. I mean and they had the fullback changes back there. I don't know if that's all on Beasler, but Dempsey's having a good time since he's gotten back.
I will point this out. Seattle did something very smart. They gave him time off in the middle of their season.
Practices. I mean,
but don't you think it matters? If you're training every single day, playing games every weekend, you come back for the World Cup, it's all stressful and heat and humidity. Don't you think that even 4 or 5 days off can give your body the opportunity to recover just a little bit? Michael Bradley was all, by the way, this is what I mean by individual circumstances. I really do believe, and he'll never say it, but I really do believe Michael Bradley played through an injury that affected his performance, both at the World Cup and FC.
Well, listen, he's already had a surgery like days after the season ended.
He had a surgery before he left for the World Cup, and now he's having a surgery after, which tells me that the problem wasn't fixed while he was in Brazil.
That's fair. That's completely fair. But that's also not a letdown issue then.
No, but he had a problem. I mean, he didn't play well after the World Cup, but is that
I think we both realize Michael Bradley's the type of guy that's not going to let anything stop him from going to a World Cup if he has control over it. If he has to push off a surgery or do a small surgery instead of a big surgery, he's going to do it. And listen, that's his body, his call, and I love him for having that type of mentality. But you also have DeAndre Yedlin. No, he didn't have anything on the back end. Omar Gonzalez had a good stretch run since he came back.
Didn't play a lot of minutes in Brazil. He played. He was a substitute. He made some appearances. He came on when he had to, but he wasn't playing day in and day out, or game in and game out in the World Cup. But this is what I'm saying. It's like all of these little individual all these individual specific circumstances to each player. This player had an injury. This player's in a team that just changed coaches. This player, I mean, there are some bad situations. I'm not trying to make them sound like they're not bad, but what I'm asking is whether or not they all combine to this notion that somehow American soccer is not producing talented players. Because I don't think that that's necessarily the case.
It's a hard argument to solve because the Americans aren't going there. So you don't really know if they're good enough because you're not getting to see them play on that stage because they're choosing to stay home instead. And so it's kind of a catch-22 on that. But I think Klinsman's right. I'll say it absolutely. I think Klinsman is completely right to call out the fact that his guys aren't in the right circumstances. Or if they're in the right circumstances, they're not performing to force a coach's hand. They need to be places where they're playing consistently.
There's absolutely no denying that. It is not a good situation. We don't talk Americans abroad anymore on the show. Have you noticed that?
No.
There's talk.
Yeah, I Shasta Clutchen scored. Okay.
Yeah, he got back in the team. I think he stepped in for somebody who got injured. That's where Sasha Clutchen is now.
His hair game needs some work.
Yeah, by the way, he just had a kid. Maybe that's part of his thing, right? The kid's always the excuse. I know.
Yeah, that's true.
By the way, how did I not drop some air horns for baller or blazer? How did I not do that?
I don't know. You kind of off your game, dude.
I know it wasn't a very good night for the drops. All right, go to iTunes to give us a rating and a review. I'm going to tease this a little bit. We're shifting some things around here at NASN, and then we'll be debuting some awesome stuff in the near future. So be on the lookout for that. I don't really want to give too much away. I'm sure I'm not even supposed to talk about this. Maybe I am. Maybe I'm okay on that front. But we are going to be changing some things. November 10th, I'm being told. So we're going to launch that new look at NASN November 10th. Be on the lookout for that. What else? Jay Rodius on Twitter. Davis JS. Best soccer show.
Soccer morning.
Soccer morning. Thank you to Scott in Florida for playing Baller or Blazer. That was good times. Good times. Anything else, Mr. Dubois?
I think that's it, man. Let's hope Dallas beats Seattle so LA can have MLS Cup.
Yeah, that's what we hope, right? You're gonna fly me out? You got my airfare?
I got a futon for you right here.
That's right.
And a big old TV.
Or hello. Danger zone! Get to the chopper!
Michael freaking Oscar
Eddie, what have you done for me lately?
I'm Epic Win.
Jay Rodius.